Okay, for today's practice, we are going to add rational numbers to our practice with adding and subtracting integers. So for number 1, I have negative 3 1/10 minus negative 6 1/10. So we're going to apply the rule for subtraction by rewriting this problem as addition. So negative 3 1/10 plus the opposite of negative 6 1/10, which is positive 6 1/10. And so now I have to think about my signs. One addend is positive, one addend is negative. So I need to take the difference because the signs are different. So I'm going to subtract these two decimal numbers. So if you remember, when you subtract decimal numbers, make sure you line up your decimal places. And I start in the tens place. 1 minus 1 is 0. 6 minus 3 is 3. And I look at the absolute values of my addends. 6 1/10 is greater than 3 1/10. So my answer will be positive because 6 1/10 is positive. So the answer for this one is positive 3, or 3 0/10. So for number 3, I'm going to switch colors to make it easier to see. Again, I'm going to rewrite my subtraction problem. Negative 7 9/10 plus the opposite of 2 2/10, which would be negative 2 2/10. So for this problem, since my signs are the same, they're both negative, I'm going to add the addends together, the absolute values. So 7.9 plus 2.2, pardon my lack of proper math terms, 9/10 and 2/10 is 11/10. 1 plus 7 plus 2 is 10. And I have to remember, since both addends are negative, my answer is going to be negative. So it's negative 10 1/10. So that's number 3. Again, I'm doing the odd numbers in the video so that you can go back and do the evens yourself. So let's look at the next one. Negative 6 plus 1 1/2. This is a plain addition problem. Since both of the signs are different, I'm going to take the difference. Now just remember, I'm going to start 6 is greater, so I'm going to put it as the addend on top, and I'm going to subtract 1 1/2 because the signs are different. In this one, I'm going to have to regroup my tenths place and rewrite my ones place. So now I can do 10 tenths minus 5 tenths is 5 tenths, and 5 minus 1 is 4. Now on this one, since 6 is greater than 1 1/2, my answer is going to be negative because that has a greater absolute value. So the answer is negative 4 1/2. So remember to apply your decimal rules, your addition and subtraction rules for integers. It's a lot of stuff to remember, so take your time and don't rush. Now we're going to look at some that have fractions in them. So for the next one, we have negative 1 1/5 minus 1 1/3. First thing I need to do is rewrite this as an addition problem like we've been doing all along. So I have negative 1 1/5 plus the opposite of 1 1/3, which is negative 1 1/3. So for this one, my signs are the same. They're both negative, so I'm going to add them together. So let's remember how we add fractions. If I have 1 1/5 plus 1 1/3, I cannot add fifths and thirds together because they're different sizes. So I need to rewrite those as an equivalent fraction with a common denominator. Now I can count my multiples of 5 and 3, and I know that their least common multiple is going to be 15. That is a multiple that they both have in common. So I'm going to have to review some of your 6th grade and 5th grade fractions there. So to find the equivalent fraction, I have to think about what did I multiply my denominator by to get that common denominator. In this case, 5 times 3 is 15. So I'm going to do the same thing to my numerator. 1 times 3 is 3. Take your time here because this is a really easy way to make a common mistake. For the next one, 3 times 5 is 15. So now I want to do 1 times 5 is 5. So now I'm going to add 1 3/15 plus 1 5/15. I add my Numerators, 3/15 and 5/15 is a total of 8/15. And 1 plus 1 is 2. Neither 8 nor 5 have a common factor other than 1, so it is in simplest form. So I'm just going to leave it, but I have to go back and think about my positive and negative. Both of my add-ins were negative, so this is going to be a negative 2 and 8/15. That's your answer for this one. And the last one I'm going to go through with you is number 9. For number 9, we have negative 4/3, which is an improper fraction. That means it's greater than 1, minus negative 3/5. So I'm going to start by rewriting those problems, or that problem. Negative 4/3 plus the opposite of 3/5, or negative 3/5. The opposite of negative 3/5 is positive 3/5. So here I have an addition problem where one addend is negative and one is positive, so I need to subtract those. So I'm going to set it up like I tend to do for fractions. I like to stack them. You don't have to. It's just my way of making it easier. And again, I need to find a common denominator. Well, good thing I did that in the last problem because I know it's 15. And I'm sorry, this should say minus. And same process. 3 times 5 is 15. 4 times 5 is 20. So 4/3 is equivalent to 20/15. 5 times 3 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9. Now I can subtract. 20/15 minus 9/15 is 11/15. Now go back to your problem. What's greater, 4/3 or 3/5? 4/3 is greater because it's greater than 1. It's negative, so my answer has to be negative. So a lot of steps in these. Take your time. I want you to pause the video, try to do the even numbers yourself, and then I'm going to put the answers up here so that you can see them, and I've worked them out. So feel free to look at how I've worked them out if you've made a mistake and make sure that you get the correct answer. So pause the video now, do your even numbers, and when you're ready, I'll have the answers in this video. Now I'm going to trust you paused it and that you've worked through the even numbers. So here are the answers. I'm going to zoom out so you can see the whole thing, so you can check your work. And then you can just leave it here, pause it on this image, and hopefully you did a great job. I'm sure you did. Thanks.